Welcome back to our channel where we dive deep into the secrets, the heartbreaks, and the quiet victories of the royal family. And today we've got a story that's going to rattle the gilded halls of Buckingham itself. Imagine this: Queen Camilla, the once unshakable partner of King Charles, reduced to tears. Not by scandalous tabloids, not by relentless whispers about Diana's ghost, but by something far simpler and infinitely sharper: a small boy's new title. Because, dear viewers, behind the velvet curtains of the monarchy's grand facade, a new power play is unfolding. And at the center of it stands little Prince Louis, with his mischievous grin, his shock of fair hair, and an unexpected honor pinned upon his young shoulders. Yes, Camilla's anguish began the moment King Charles, in what many insiders are calling his final strategic act, chose to elevate Prince Louis above all else. He granted him a historic royal title typically reserved for far older heirs. A move that didn't just rearrange seating charts, it sliced straight through the delicate balance of power within the palace. At Trooping the Colour this summer, Louis was already stealing hearts. Gone was the purely playful toddler who once clamped his hands over his ears at jet flyovers. Observers noted a growing maturity, a subtle composure that reminded some eerily of Diana's grace, mingled with that unfiltered spark uniquely his own. The crowd roared for him. Social media couldn't get enough. But out of sight of the flashing cameras, another drama brewed. Because while the public gushed over Louis's delightful antics, Camilla was seething. Insiders say she had long lobbied, with careful nods and private urgings to Charles, hoping to carve out ceremonial roles for her own grandchildren. Small tokens of royal acceptance. A ribbon here, a court invitation there. Anything to cement her family's place in the monarchy's evolving story. Instead, the announcement about Louis arrived like a guillotine. It was discreet, just a crisp entry in the court circular and a neatly worded post on the royal family's Instagram. No press conference, no balcony wave. But to those who understood royal codes, it was thunderous. Prince Louis was now the bearer of a historic honorific, last tied to Victorian-era military grandeur and regional command. A title meant to signal profound trust and a long path toward stewardship. Bestowed on a child barely out of primary school. The message couldn't have been clearer if it were etched in gold across Buckingham's gates. The future belongs to William, Catherine, and Diana's bloodline. Sources close to the palace whisper that when Camilla saw the first front-page splash, with Louis hailed as the monarchy's new darling, embodiment of Diana's sparkle and Kate's steady hand, she went deathly pale. A servant found her staring at the paper for nearly 10 minutes, unmoving. It was the final straw. Later that afternoon, behind thick brocade doors, Camilla let loose a fury the likes of which even Charles hadn't faced in years. Staff reported shattered porcelain on the floor, her voice echoing down marble corridors. "How dare they humiliate me like this? My grandson is every bit as worthy, if not more so, than Diana's haunted legacy." It wasn't just about titles. It was about validation. About fighting decades to be recognized only to watch her lineage once again cast aside for the woman whose shadow she had spent a lifetime trying to escape. Meanwhile, William and Catherine were unruffled. Kate was seen at a charity garden fete the very next morning, radiant in a soft mint dress, hand resting lightly on Louis's shoulder. Reporters noted she seemed almost serene, even as cameras caught Louis giggling, his new insignia gleaming discreetly. No gloating. No dramatic statements. Just the quiet, devastating poise of someone who knows the future is hers to shape. And that's what stings most for Camilla. Because even after her own hard-fought journey, from scandalous other woman to coroneted queen consort, the public's eyes still drift inexorably to Diana's children and grandchildren. To George, destined to be king. To Charlotte, embodying a modern, spirited elegance. And now to Louis, mischievous yet already wrapped in the golden thread of destiny. Insiders say this was more than a family squabble. It was a calculated reinforcement of the royal narrative, that legitimacy flows through Diana's veins. That the monarchy's continuity rests on the shoulders of children the public has loved since they toddled across palace lawns. Camilla tried to contain her fury. For days, she cancelled luncheons. Shut herself in her chambers. Servants said the mood turned icy, silences so heavy you could hear clocks ticking 3 rooms away. Then, unable to bear it, she burst into Charles's study. Witnesses describe it as an explosion of grief and accusation. "They're mocking us, Charles. They're making your son's family the only dynasty that matters. Where does that leave me? Where does that leave my children and grandchildren?" Charles, ever the weary peacemaker, tried to reassure her. "Titles are strategic, my dear. They stabilize the monarchy, they aren't meant to wound." But the words rang hollow. Because deep down, Camilla knew the truth. The palace, the press, the very public she'd spent decades winning over, they were all choosing Diana's heirs again. Not hers. And what of Kate in all this? The public image is of warmth and grace, but palace veterans know better. Kate is astute, patient, with a long view sharper than any velvet dagger. She doesn't need to crow over victories. She simply lets the tide of favor carry her children forward, while Camilla drowns in memories of a throne that was never quite hers. The quiet brilliance of this latest move is that it wasn't even framed as a snub. A modest court statement. A single photo of Louis waving shyly. Yet it reset the entire chessboard. Now Louis stands in firm line behind George and Charlotte, Diana's legacy, purified, unsullied by compromise. Camilla's grandchildren, meanwhile, remain graciously tolerated guests at palace events, smiling politely on the margins, never called to stand shoulder to shoulder with heirs. Royal aides say Camilla has retreated deeper into private bitterness. That once cordial relations with Kate are now stiffly formal, laced with delicate silences that speak louder than words. And King Charles? Those closest to him admit he's aged visibly in these past months. The burdens of reconciling warring affections, the wife who held him up through scandal, the sons who carry a lost love's ghost, have left him quieter, almost diminished. He watches it all unfold, knowing that for the monarchy to survive, it must remain firmly tethered to the figures the public adores. And that means, inevitably, to Diana's lineage. So what's next? Will Camilla mount a subtle counteroffensive to secure some small token for her family? Or is this the final chapter in her long quest for parity, ending not with triumph, but with a polite curtsy to children who will never truly be hers? Time will tell. But one thing is certain, as long as little Louis grins from balconies, as long as Charlotte's confident wave enchants crowds, and as long as Kate stands quietly behind them, the future is sealed. A future not of scandal's second chances, but of Diana's unbroken line. And for Camilla, that truth is perhaps the cruelest cut of all. Thank you for joining us for this emotional deep dive. Tell us, do you believe the monarchy is right to anchor itself so firmly in Diana's legacy? Was this a fair affirmation of destiny, or an unnecessary wound to a woman who fought decades for acceptance? Drop your thoughts below. We read every one. And if you want more stories like this, more secrets, more human cracks beneath the crowns, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell. Until next time, keep your eyes on the palace windows. Because behind those gilded panes, history is always rewriting itself.